Live from New Delhi, you're watching Daily India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauds the organizational success of the Mahakumbh at Prayagraj, says collective consciousness of the nation reflects its strength. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar highlights the need for a fairer world order, hints at basic consistency on standards for the United Nations. US Intelligence Chief Tulsi Gabbard says Trump's America First policy doesn't mean America alone, calls Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US a reconnection of two old friends. And US President Donald Trump set to hold talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin over phone, says many elements of the peace agreement in Ukraine already agreed upon. The 10th edition of the Raisina Dialogue continues in New Delhi. The second-day deliberations began with a session titled Thrones and Thorns, Defending the Integrity of Nations. Participating in the discussions, External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, stressed the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity, calling it a vital principle and a bedrock of global rules.
After the Second World War, the longest standing illegal, I would say, presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India. What we saw in Kashmir. Now, we went to the UN. What was an invasion was made into a dispute. So, the attacker and the victim were put on par. Who were the culpable parties? UK, Canada, Belgium, Australia, USA. We speak today of political interference. When the West goes out into other countries, it's apparently in pursuance of democratic freedoms. When other countries come into the West, it seems to have a very malign intention.
Further, Dr. Jaishankar underlined the need of a strong as well as fairer United Nations, adding that a strong global order must have some basic consistency of standards.
I think we need, if to have an order, there must be fairness. We need a strong UN, but a strong UN requires a fair UN. A strong, a global order must have some, some basic consistency of standards. We have military coups to our east in Myanmar. They are no-no. We have them even more regularly to the west, where. They seem to be okay. So I think it's important to audit the working of the world for the last 8 decades and be honest about it, and to understand today that, the balances, the shareholdings in the world have changed. We need a different conversation.
Dr. S. Jaishankar said the idea of a multipolar world is concerned to think how to become a leading power of the world at some point in time.
I think the idea of a multipolar world, and where India itself is concerned, to think of how to become a leading power at some point of time. I think these are the global South character, the democratic character, the adapting long view aspect, and a multipolar world towards which we are working. I think if you keep these in mind, a lot of what we do in different situations would make sense.
Indian Minister Kirti Vardhan Singh delivered the keynote address at the 10th Raisina Dialogue session on Towards a Green Future for Sustainable Development, highlighting India's leadership in climate action through initiatives such as that of the International Solar Alliance, One Sun, One World, One Grid, and the Global Biofuel Alliance. He said that India is committed to green climate and taking steps in this regard.
The current financing needs run in trillions of dollars, and private investment remains limited. To enhance capital availability for finance adaptation, for climate adaptation and mitigation, India is developing a climate finance taxonomy, which will support the country's climate commitments and our green transition programs. Moving forward, India is developing its national adaptation plan, which is a strategic vision which will integrate climate adaptation into all aspects of our governance, planning, and budgeting.
Further, the United States Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, also delivered the keynote address at the ongoing Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi on Tuesday. Gabbard expressed her delight at returning to India, praising the country's warm culture and rich history.
It's great for me to be back here in India. It's been too long, but it's always such a wonderful and warm experience knowing the rich history of this country and the vibrant democracy that really serves as the foundation for the special bond that has long existed between our two countries.
Gabbard also emphasized the enduring strength of the US-India partnership, noting that it has stood the test of time for decades.
It's been a constructive few days where I've been engaging with our Indian counterparts. The partnership between our two countries has been strong for decades, and under the leadership of two great leaders and true great friends, President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, and rooted in our shared values of peace and freedom, security and prosperity, I'm confident that this partnership and friendship between our two nations and our leaders will continue to grow and strengthen.
Gabbard further noted that President Trump's America First policy does not mean America alone.
So just as President Trump is committed to America First, putting the safety, security, and freedom of the American people at the forefront of his policies and his decisions, Prime Minister Modi is committed to India First. Prime Minister Luxon is committed to New Zealand First. This is the expectation of any leader's commitment to their people, to serve them, to put their interests at the forefront of their decisions. But this should not be misunderstood to mean that America First is America alone. The relationships that we build together are critical to advance our mutual interests.
Gabbard also stressed the importance of direct engagement in shaping global policy, highlighting how such dialogues offer opportunities to address critical issues with clarity and purpose.
Gatherings like this here at Raisina are so important because it brings us together here, people from over 120 countries around the world, providing us a platform where heads of state, ministers, directors, leaders in business and nonprofits and strategic think tanks can actually come together in that spirit of aloha for robust dialogue and debate that will help us increase our understanding of one another.
Lead India's Akshay Dongre is with us from New Delhi, where Raisina Dialogue is currently taking place. Akshay, as we heard, Tulsi Gabbard focused on the enduring relationship between US and India, with a special emphasis on the personal bond between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump. But when she said that America First does not mean America alone, what was she hinting at?
Well, the policies of Donald Trump has been seen as isolationist as well by different countries when it comes to Europe, when it comes to the partner nations of the United States, such as India. There have been questions that if President Donald Trump is speaking about America First, if he's talking about the welfare of the people of US or the trade policies that America has with other countries, it should not be considered that it is an isolationist policy, which means that it is not that the US is trying to isolate itself from other countries and trying to only focus on itself. So it's not a selfish policy, according to Tulsi Gabbard. It is a policy that was in accordance with the need of time. And if these historical wrongs were not corrected, they could have deteriorated relations of America with other countries, especially especially allies such as India. So that is one statement that has been made by Tulsi Gabbard. We have heard of Dr. S. Jaishankar as well, the Foreign Affairs Minister of India, who has spoken about the kind of policies that have been made under Modi government in the last 10 years, and how they have enhanced the relations of India with not just the neighboring countries but with major global powers such as America, global powers in Europe and in Asia as well. So we are looking at a policy that was formulated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi as soon as he came into the office of Prime Minister of India, where he emphasized on the need to build closer relations with the neighboring countries. Then we have seen how his pitch for better coordination and cooperation among the global south countries has yielded results. We have seen how when India hosted the G20 summit, the African Union was included in the G20 as a member of the grouping too. So here at Raisina Dialogue, all of the policies and the result that has culminated is all on display. In fact, more than 20 foreign ministers of different countries are attending. We have interacted with several foreign ministers, including Foreign Minister of Hungary, of Ghana, of Luxembourg. We have spoken with other foreign ministers as well, who have all spoken about the policies that have been formulated in the last decade, and how they have fostered into record trade numbers, record visits when it comes to bilateral talks, and how the relationships have cemented among the nations with India, and how India has positioned itself as a major geopolitical power, not just in the region but across the world.
Indeed.
So this is the 10th edition of Raisina Dialogue, and in fact it is a spectacular display of India's geopolitical strength here as well.
Okay. Now, Dr. Jaishankar also mentioned of the need for the UN to have basic consistency on standards. So is the overhaul of the UN going to be a major discussion point here at the 10th Raisina Dialogue?
Well, when a country such as India, that deserves to be part of the permanent nations of the Security Council to take major decisions, now we have to remember that India is the world's largest country when it comes to population. It is the world's largest democracy as well. It is a country that has been part of the war efforts during World War II. That was the basic criteria earlier. We have lost more soldiers than many of the countries around the world. We are a country that has always upholded the rule of law. We believe in democracy and democratic values, and the structure that is there in the Security Council, that is the body which is the most powerful body of the United Nations. India has no place in it when it comes to the permanent nations. It has no veto, and the countries that had won the World War II primarily are the members of the P5 of the United Nations, including the US. Then you have France, you have Britain, you also have China. So all of those countries that were a member of the permanent five of the Security Council continues to remain that way, though the world has changed quite significantly, and it is a need of time to prevent conflicts such as the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, the conflict that has broken out in the Middle East, to have better representation of people from all around the world, and to have representation of countries like India that are not only the fastest growing major economy, but it is also a democracy, and in fact the largest democracy. So with the changing times and the changing need of overhaul of the United Nations, this is in fact a major concern for most of the countries around the world. That why only a select few countries that have always held the veto power in the United Nations Security Council should remain that way. So that is in fact a major point of discussion. And when a country like India hosts such a massive geopolitical summit, then definitely the voice of India is being heard, and the countries that are here have also spoken about the need for countries like India to be included in decision-making bodies of the United Nations. Otherwise, the body is going to lose its relevance in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much, Akshay. Akshay Dongre reporting from the Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi. On the sidelines of the Raisina 2025 Dialogue, India's External Affairs Minister held a meeting with his Hungarian counterpart, Peter Szijjártó. The leaders discussed the growth potential of trade and investment, stronger India-EU cooperation, and the Ukraine conflict. You're with us on DD India News Hour. Still to come on this show. Ukraine's foreign minister hopes to get clarity after Trump and Putin's phone call on Tuesday. India and Hungary's potential for stronger ties discussed at New Delhi's Raisina Dialogue 2025. And India's passenger fares for the railways have not increased since 2020 and are very cost-effective in comparison to neighbouring countries, informs Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav in Lok Sabha.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I am Tanvi Taneja. Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs Andriy Sybiha participated in the prestigious Raisina Dialogue 2025 held in New Delhi, where he addressed a global audience on pressing geopolitical issues. In his speech, Sybiha emphasized the importance of peace and diplomacy in resolving international conflicts. He stated unequivocally that war serves no one's interest and that it must come to an end for the sake of global stability and human well-being.
This war is not about Ukraine. That's why it is also a global interest to achieve just, comprehensive, long-lasting peace. Yes, after Jeddah, we got another speed, new additional opportunities to end this war this year. And we are ready for this. We are not the obstacle to achieve peace. Let's see what will be the response from Russian side to settle ceasefire.
India and Hungary have strong relations that have significantly improved under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. Both countries have great potential to further enhance these ties. DD India's correspondent caught up with Hungary's Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó.
We are right now at Raisina Dialogue Summit, and we have with us the Foreign Minister of Hungary, Peter Szijjártó, with us. So thank you so much for speaking with us, and welcome to India. So first of all, my question would be about Indo-Hungarian relationships, and especially under the Prime Ministership of Narendra Modi. How do you think the relations have improved in the last 10 years?
Well, we really do value and appreciate the relationship between the two countries, which have witnessed a pretty spectacular improvement during the recent years, which is mostly thanks to the very similar approach of our two prime ministers, who are both great patriots. They do consider the national interest of their nations and their countries as utmost number one issue.
Whenever there is war between two factions, they expect larger countries to side with one. However, India has taken a different approach, and so has Hungary as well. They have been practical. Do you think that the perspective matches between Hungary and India as far as this conflict is concerned?
Yeah, absolutely. This is true. You know, as we are living in the neighborhood, there had been many attempts throughout the last 3 years to drag us into this war, to push us into this war, to make statements on one side or the other. They wanted us to deliver weapons to Ukraine, which we did not do as the only country in NATO. We did not deliver weapons because we really wanted peace to come. If you live in the neighborhood of a war, then you are confronted with the challenges on a daily basis. And since you don't bear any kind of responsibility for this war, you don't want to be faced with the challenges and the suffering either. So therefore, we have been arguing in favor of ceasefire and peace negotiations to be started since the very beginning. I remember that at that time we were under very heavy attack for having such initiatives, and now there's a positive context being created around the idea of ceasefire. We cross fingers for the success of the peace negotiations between US and Russia, and you know that we in Central Europe have a very clear experience of history that whenever US and Russia do have a good relationship, it's better for us. Whenever US and Russia do not have a good relationship, it's worse for us. Right. So based on our historic experience, the better relationship the Americans and the Russians have is the better for us as well.
Right. Thank you so much. So that was the Foreign Minister of Hungary talking to us about his visit to India, as well as the ongoing war, where both Hungary and India have sided or have spoken openly that both the countries are siding with peace. With camera person Subit Naudiyal, I'm Akshay Dongre, DD India.
In an exclusive conversation with DD India's Akshay Dongre, Poland's Deputy Foreign Minister Władysław Teofil Bartoszewski said that Prime Minister Modi's diplomatic stance on the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict has given peace a chance. The Deputy Minister emphasized that India under Prime Minister Modi's leadership has maintained strong relations with all sides involved, positioning India as a crucial player in efforts to bring peace to the region.
We are at Raisina Dialogue, India's premier geopolitical event, and we have with us the Deputy Foreign Minister of Poland. Sir, thank you so much for speaking with DD India. First of all, I would like to understand the relevance that you think this dialogue has.
Raisina is the most important international relations conference in Asia. The most important. So it's the 10th year this year. It's my third time here, and every time it's getting bigger and bigger. I'm not quite sure how much more you can grow this hotel because it's creaking. We get 4,200 people. Last year we had 3,000 something. It's excellent because you meet people from all over the world. I mean, it's very rare to meet people from the US via Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia, up to New Zealand. This year, Prime Minister of New Zealand is the guest of honor, so we get plenty of people from there, Australia, New Zealand. It's unique.
Let's move to Europe. There is no sign that there will be an end to this conflict that has been going on between Russia and Ukraine. What do you think can be India's role as far as the ongoing conflict is concerned?
I think India's role is a potentially a mediating role because Prime Minister Modi talks freely with the Americans and with the Europeans and with the Ukrainians, but he also has access to President Putin and could have some influence over him, as he did indeed have in 2022, where he was one of the persons who persuaded Putin not to use tactical nuclear weapons. I think India was always a non-aligned country, talking to everybody, and that puts India in a position of having some influence everywhere.
The Deputy Foreign Minister of Poland talking about all the aspects and perspectives about the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war. So we are at Raisina Dialogue, and we'll keep on getting you more updates about this premier geopolitical event. With camera person Subit Naudiyal, I'm Akshay Dongre, DD India.
Still with New Delhi, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the lower house of the Parliament Lok Sabha on Tuesday, praising the success of Prayagraj's Mahakumbh. The Prime Minister said that in the Mahakumbh, all differences faded away, and it is India's great strength, showing that the spirit of unity is deeply rooted within us. The second leg of the budget session is underway in the Parliament.
महाकुंभ ऐसा आयोजन रहा जिसमें देश के हर क्षेत्र से, हर एक कोने से आए लोग एक हो गए। लोग अहम त्याग कर वयम के भाव से, मैं नहीं हम की भावना से प्रयागराज में जुटे। महाकुंभ में हमने देखा है कि वहां छोटे बड़े का कोई भेद नहीं था। ये भारत का बहुत बड़ा सामर्थ्य है। ये दिखाता है कि एकता का अद्भुत तत्व हमारे भीतर रचा बसा हुआ है। हमारी एकता का सामर्थ्य इतना है कि वो भेदने के सारे प्रयासों को भी भेद देता है।
Further, replying to the discussion on the demands for grants under the control of Ministry of Railways for 2025-26, Minister Ashwini Vaishnav highlighted the advancements made to the Indian Railways and thanked the Prime Minister for the allocation of the Railways budget to do so.
सबसे पहले माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी को धन्यवाद देना चाहूँगा कि रेलवे के प्रति उनका इतना इमोशनल कनेक्ट है। उन्होंने रेलवे पे विशेष ध्यान देकर रेलवे के लिए एक हिस्टोरिक बजट पेश किया। 2,52,000 करोड़ रुपए का रेलवे के लिए एक जीबीएस देना अपने आप में एक बहुत बड़ी ऐतिहासिक चीज़ है और इसके लिए मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी को धन्यवाद देना चाहूँगा। बहुत सारे टेक्नोलॉजिकल चेंज किए हैं सेफ्टी पे, लॉन्गर रेल, बेटर क्वालिटी ऑफ रेल, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इंटरलॉकिंग, फॉग सेफ्टी डिवाइस, इन सब को लाके भारत की रेलवे ने बहुत बड़ा फोकस करके एक सिग्निफिकेंट इम्प्रूवमेंट लेके आए।
In the upper house, known as Rajya Sabha, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman replied to the discussion on the Manipur budget and Manipur supplementary demands. The minister said that 913 crore rupees have been given under the special assistance for state capital investment for 2024-25 and a contingency fund for Manipur with 500 crore rupees also been created. And our Parliament correspondent, DD India's Anil Thomas joins us now. Anil, so Prime Minister spoke very optimistically about the Mahakumbh, saying its organization has given us all a lot of inspiration. Tell us, how was his statements received by the lower house?
Well, good afternoon, Tanvi. Well, very much on expected lines. Prime Minister was expected to speak today. Prime Minister, as it struck 12 noon, Prime Minister stood up in the Lok Sabha to speak. And it did lay threadbare the big advantages that India gained, the big takeaways that India gained from hosting the Mahakumbh in Prayagraj. The amount of people that landed up in Mahakumbh, close to 65 crore people landing up to take a holy dip during that auspicious 46-day period in Prayagraj city. That's not all. He also spoke about how it unified the people of India, it unified the world, and it got the world attention, the amount of people that came to take a holy dip in the Ganges. That's not all. He also made a mention about during his Mauritius trip how he had taken water from the holy Ganges there from Prayagraj as a gift to the Prime Minister of Mauritius. So clearly indicating and also cutting across party lines. He said it's a matter of pride for India. It's not that it was a festival that was hosted by the government of Uttar Pradesh or for that matter. It was a matter of pride for the entire population of India. This particular hosting of the Mahakumbh, which was successful in many ways. And the opposition did raise issues with regards to the leader of opposition wanting to speak or reply to the Prime Minister's statement, which was refused under Rule 372 by the Speaker, Om Birla. He clearly indicated that the Prime Minister and members of the Parliament, members of the Cabinet are allowed to make statements under this, as a result of which, there was opposition that created a huge ruckus post that and did try to disrupt the House. But, the Speaker held his ground. The Speaker managed to make headway and matters proceeded after that. But post-noon session, when the Railway Minister was speaking, the ruckus became uncontrollable and it got somewhere reached a point where, you couldn't hear what the Railway Minister was speaking in Parliament. That pushed the Speaker to stop the proceedings of the House and look at, rather end the proceedings for the day, especially in the lower house. But Rajya Sabha still continues with full tempo and discussions on in the upper house of Parliament.
Reporting from the Parliament House in New Delhi. India is observing the 7th edition of the Poshan Pakhwada, moving forward with its mission to promote holistic development and nutritional security for women and children. Our next report brings you more details about this countrywide mission and its importance.
The Ministry of Women and Child Development remains resolute in its mission to promote holistic development, nutritional security, and economic empowerment for women and children. And moving in tandem with the idea of nutritious India and healthy India, India is currently observing the 7th edition of Poshan Pakhwada, which is being observed from the 18th of March and will go on till the 2nd of April 2025. Let's now take a look at the outcomes which is currently being focused and centered around 4 key themes during this Poshan Pakhwada. The first focus is on first 1000 days of life. The second is on popularization of beneficiary module. The third aims at management of malnutrition through implementation of the CMAM module, while the fourth focus is on healthy lifestyle to address obesity in children. To ensure its maximum reach, the Ministry of Women and Child Development is running a digital campaign called #ShePillsBharat, stressing on the importance of well-nourished India. The Poshan Abhiyan was launched with aim to improve nutritional outcome in a holistic manner, where behavioral change at individual and community level is an important component to achieve the desired goals of a nourished India. Deepika Mehta's report for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. Peace in Gaza shattered again. Hundreds reportedly killed in strikes. Israel blames action on Hamas's refusal to release the remaining hostages. And NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore begin journey to Earth on SpaceX Dragon capsule after being stranded on ISS for months.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back on DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. A quick relook at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauds the organizational success of the Mahakumbh at Prayagraj, says collective consciousness of the nation reflects its strength. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar highlights the need for a fairer world order, hints at basic consistency on standards for the United Nations. US Intelligence Chief Tulsi Gabbard says Trump's America First policy doesn't mean America alone, calls Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US a reconnection of two old friends. And US President Donald Trump set to hold talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin over phone, says many elements of the peace agreement in Ukraine agreed upon. US President Donald Trump is set to hold talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin over a phone call. Donald Trump said that many elements of the peace agreement in Ukraine have been agreed upon. The talks are scheduled for Tuesday morning and are aimed at ending the Ukraine conflict with territorial concessions by Kiev and control of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Trump has been trying to win Putin's support for a 30-day ceasefire proposal that Ukraine accepted last week. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told a regular briefing on Monday that Trump and Putin would discuss a power plant on the border of Russia and Ukraine.
There's a power plant that is on the border of Russia and Ukraine that was up for discussion with the Ukrainians, and he will address it in his call with Putin tomorrow.
Ahead of the Trump-Putin talks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a late-night address said that Putin is the one prolonging the conflict.
Дуже важливо, що завтра вже тиждень.
This proposal could have been implemented long ago. Every day in wartime means human lives. By now, it has been nearly a week since it became absolutely clear to everyone in the world, even to those who for the past 3 years refused to acknowledge the truth, that it is Putin who continues and prolongs this war. For a week now, Putin has been unable to muster a simple yes in response to ceasefire proposal.
Саме Путін вже тиждень не здатний вичавити.
On to West Asia now. Israel's military said that it conducted strikes on Hamas targets in the Palestinian enclave as explosions were heard over Gaza City in the early hours of Tuesday. Over 330 people were killed and over 100 wounded in the strikes. Israel stated that the recent strikes on Gaza are a response to Hamas's repeated refusal to release hostages as well as a rejection of all ceasefire proposals. The military mentioned that the Home Command has ordered restrictions on civilian activity near the Gaza Strip following the airstrikes. Schools will also be closed in areas near the Gaza Strip on Tuesday. Danny Danon, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, said that Israel will show no mercy to its enemies.
The Israeli Air Force initiated a series of attacks against Hamas targets in Gaza. We will show no mercy on our enemies. Let me be very clear. Israel will not stop until all of our hostages are back home. We will make it very clear to the Security Council that if they want to stop the war in Gaza, they have to ensure that the hostages are coming back to Israel. We are committed to bring them back.
Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office on Tuesday stated that Netanyahu instructed the military to take strong action following the group's refusal to release hostages and its rejection of ceasefire proposals. Pentagon said on Monday that there have been dozens of military casualties so far in Yemen. U.S. Defense Department spokesman Sean Parnell said that the U.S. military will carry out unrelenting strikes against Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels until achieving its objectives. Responding to the Houthi movement's threats to international shipping, the U.S. launched a new wave of airstrikes on Saturday.
The initial wave of strikes hit over 30 targets at multiple locations, degrading a variety of Houthi capabilities. These included terrorist training sites, unmanned aerial vehicle infrastructure, weapons manufacturing capabilities, and weapons storage facilities. It also included a number of command and control centers, including a terrorist compound where we know several senior Houthi unmanned aerial vehicle experts were located. On Sunday, strike operations continued against additional headquarters locations, weapons storage facilities, as well as detection capabilities that have been used to threaten maritime shipping in the past. Today, the operation continues, and it will continue in the coming days until we achieve the President's objectives.
President Donald Trump declared on Monday that he will hold Iran directly responsible for any future attacks by Yemen's Tehran-backed Houthi rebels who have targeted the U.S. and other foreign ships in the Red Sea. Trump said that every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer met with visiting Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Monday as both leaders looked forward to strengthening ties. The leaders agreed that the UK-Canada partnership is based on shared history and values, membership of the Commonwealth, and a shared king, and they both looked forward to strengthening their ties. During the meeting, they also discussed a virtual meeting on Saturday chaired by Starmer to support Ukraine. Speaking on the imposition of tariffs by the United States, Carney said that Donald Trump must stop these comments before bilateral talks can actually start.
Take seriously what the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom said today. I don't think one needs to respond to every comment about another country. Look, we can stand up for ourselves. It's Canada strong. We can stand up for ourselves. We've called out those comments. They're disrespectful. They're not helpful. And they need to stop before, and they will have to stop before we sit down and have a conversation about our broader our broader partnership with the United States.
So Canada has a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, an outsider in politics, but a veteran of the financial world. His bold start includes a streamlined cabinet, key policy shifts, and a diplomatic test with US President Donald Trump. Notably, his team reflects Canada's diversity, with South Asian leaders Anita Anand and Kamal Khera taking top roles. So can Carney's expertise translate into political success? Our correspondent Tarun gets us this report.
A new era in Canadian politics has unfolded. Former central banker Mark Carney has officially taken over as Prime Minister, replacing Justin Trudeau after a swift Liberal leadership contest. Carney was sworn in at Radio Hill in Ottawa, and he wasted no time putting his stamp on the job, from unveiling a fresh cabinet to setting the tone for Canadian fraught relationship with Donald Trump. The surprise rise of his political newcomer comes with big promises and big challenges.
He knows, and I know from long experience, that we can find mutual solutions that win for both.
Mark Carney, best known for steering the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England through financial storms, is now Canada's 24th Prime Minister. He took the oath of office, becoming the first person to lead the country without any prior elected political experience. Carney succeeded Justin Trudeau, who spent 9 years in power. In his first move, Carney unveiled a streamlined 24-member cabinet, nearly half the size of Trudeau's, signaling a lean approach to government. Notably, the new Prime Minister also elevated prominent member of Canada's South Asian community, giving Kamal Khera and Anita Anand influential role, underscoring his promise to reflect Canada's diversity in the highest echelon of power. Kamal Khera is set to lead the newly restructured Ministry of Public Health and Emergency Preparedness, while Anita Anand takes over as Ministry of National Defence.
I think Carney is already looking to mend ways, get things better, and maybe get closer to India.
Carney says that tighter inner circle will be laser focused on economic stability and navigating an escalating trade dispute with the United States. He stressed the importance of diverse voices in guiding his policy decision, calling Canada multicultural identity one of the greatest assets. Carney is widely expected to call a general election later this year. Canada's next election must happen by October. He needs to unify his Liberal Party and win over Canadians who never voted for him as Prime Minister. Some Canadians are excited about his outsider expertise, while others are skeptical about his lack of political experience. From Canada, this is Tarun Paul Singh.
And in news of some relief, the SpaceX Crew 9 mission has started its journey back to Earth. NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, along with Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbunov, boarded the SpaceX Dragon capsule, closed the hatch and undocked from the International Space Station. The Crew 9 mission is scheduled to splash down off the coast of Florida at around 9:57 p.m. GMT on Tuesday. As part of NASA's Commercial Crew program, this mission will return critical, time-sensitive research to Earth after a successful, long-duration science mission aboard the orbiting laboratory. And in news just coming in, with NASA astronaut all set to return to Earth from International Space Station, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday expressed his concern for the daughter of India. Sharing Prime Minister's letter, Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh tweeted, "Even though you are thousands of miles away, you remain close to our hearts." Read Prime Minister Narendra Modi's heartfelt letter sent to Sunita Williams through astronaut Mike Massimino, reflecting the pride of 1.4 billion Indians. A few days ago, Prime Minister Modi met Massimino at an event and requested that this letter from him and the people of India must reach Sunita, wishing her strength and a safe return. The Prime Minister reaffirmed India's deep bond with its illustrious daughter. Sunita, in turn, touched by the gesture, expressed her gratitude to Prime Minister Modi and India. Moving on now, Congo M23 rebels will no longer join peace talks in Angola on Tuesday. The group said it would be sending a delegation to Angola's capital Luanda on Tuesday, one day after Congo confirmed its participation. reversing the government's long-standing vow not to negotiate with the rebels. We have a report.
The M23 rebel group behind the latest flare-up of violence in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has pulled out of peace talks a day before they were due to start in Angola. The decision by the rebel group followed European Union sanctions over 3 senior Rwandan military officials, 5 senior leaders of the M23 and a gold refinery announced earlier on Monday. The DRC government alleges that the rebel group has Rwandan government support. Tuesday's talks would have marked the first meeting between the Congolese government and the rebel movement that President Felix Tshisekedi has referred to as terrorist and refused to engage with. Meanwhile, the Rwandan government announced its decision to sever diplomatic relations with Belgium on Monday and gave Belgian diplomats 48 hours to leave the country. Belgium has labelled Rwanda's decision disproportionate.
Rwanda's concern is that we are colonized by a small country, similar in size to Rwanda itself, and they wanted to divide us because of that. I mean Belgium. I want to give them a warning. Belgium has caused significant harm to Rwanda even in history. 30 years ago, and they continue to follow and interfere with us. We warned them before, and we are prepared to warn them again.
Brussels has been leading calls for European nations to sanction Rwanda over its support for the M23 rebel group, but Rwanda has long denied claims that it supports, arms, fights alongside and trains M23. Anamika Pandey, DD India.
And now we take a look at other stories making news around the world. A footage released by Taiwan's defense forces on Monday showed the presence of Chinese military presence near its coast. Beijing claimed these drills will be punishment for Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te's separatist stand. Honduran military chipped in the ongoing rescue efforts after a plane crashed on Monday night near the Caribbean coast of Honduras immediately after taking off from the Roatan Island. So far, 7 people have been reported dead due to the accident. Still to come on DD India News Hour. New Zealand beat Pakistan by 5 wickets in the second T20 Cricket International on Tuesday. And PV Sindhu and Lakshya Sen lead India's campaign at the Swiss Open 2025 badminton tournament. Thank you for staying with us on DD India News Hour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to some business news now. Long hailed as a disruptor moving the world closer towards e-mobility, Tesla has been a favorite to the left but has now become extremely unpopular due to CEO Elon Musk's dealings with US President Donald Trump. Well, sales are down, and in Germany, the company is facing even more headwinds. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin now on the story. Lars, what can you tell us about Tesla's troubles in Berlin?
Thanks for having me. We're talking about Grünheide, just outside Berlin. That is the little town where Tesla has put up its Gigafactory a few years back. It's one of its largest factories. The new updated Y model is built there. And, well, the mood is not great among workers. In fact, the company seems to have more sick notes coming in than would be usual for its kind of business. And they're not dealing with that problem well. The plant management has threatened workers to stop paying them when they're sick, which would be against the law. Management is obviously not trusting their employees, thinking they're just not really sick, but just taking time off on the company's dime. Now, for any doctor's note that's been shown at Tesla, the company is demanding to get a full medical diagnosis and for workers to allow their doctors to break their usual doctor-patient confidentiality agreement. Now, that is obviously unheard of, but it seems to be the new rule in Grünheide. The local union says this is by no means done on a case-by-case basis, but that it's actually widespread. Also, Tesla has withheld pay from sick employees against the company's contracts, and that has put many of them in financial trouble, as most of them, being regular workers, obviously depend on their monthly income to pay their bills, their mortgage, and so on. And yes, they depend on their sick pay too, in case they can't work for medical reasons.
So, Lars, is there any truth at all to the company's accusations that people are staying home without being sick?
That's impossible to say, really. So there are pretty high numbers of sick days taken at Tesla, that's for sure. And that's not just the case in recent months, since Elon Musk has been in the spotlight as the closest advisor to President Trump in the US. Now, that has irritated lots of people, of course, including engineers and employees who used to want to work for Tesla when the company was seen as an environmental trailblazer whose ideals they might have shared. But like I said, these sick days have been pretty high since way before Musk went crazy, to cite a pretty common saying in the Tesla crowd. Now, Tesla has sent inspectors to people's homes to check on them when they called in sick. They threatened employees. They also offered a €2,000 bonus for people with no sick days in a given year. And the number of people missing work actually went down tremendously. So Tesla said that proves their point. Union representatives, however, say that they are afraid many workers are actually just going to work sick now out of fear of repercussions. So it's unclear what is really going on. Obviously, no one would be surprised if at least some Tesla workers simply can't stomach working for Musk anymore and just stay home indeed.
All right. Thank you, Lars, for those updates. Lars Holter reporting from DW Berlin. And time now for some sporting action. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with the Indian contingent that participated in the Special Olympics World Winter Games. He met them in Parliament on Tuesday. Prime Minister Modi congratulated these athletes on their achievements, having won 33 medals, including 8 gold, 18 silver and 7 bronze in Italy. Sharing pictures with them on social media platform X, Prime Minister Modi wrote, "I'm immensely proud of our athletes who have brought glory to the nation." And at the Special Olympics World Winter Games held in Turin, Italy, our incredible contingent has brought home 33 medals, wrote the Prime Minister. And in cricket, New Zealand defeated Pakistan by 5 wickets in the second match of the 5-match T20 series on Tuesday. With this, the Kiwis have taken a 2-0 lead. The home side completed the chase with 11 balls to spare after Pakistan posted 135 for 9 in a rain-reduced 15-over match. Kiwi bowlers Jacob Duffy, James Neesham, Ish Sodhi and Ben Sayers took 2 wickets each to reduce the visitors to a modest total. Openers Tim Seifert and Finn Allen gave New Zealand a fiery start. Seifert smashed the Pakistani bowlers all over the park before departing for 45. Seifert was adjudged player of the match for his quick-fire innings. New Zealand will now eye a series win against Pakistan in the third T20 international on Friday. The Bangladesh cricket team is set to tour Pakistan for a white ball series in May, which will include 3 T20s and 3 ODIs. The series will be held after the conclusion of the 10th edition of the Pakistan Super League, scheduled to take place from April 11th to May 18th. Originally, the series was part of the Future Tours program, but had to be postponed due to the busy schedules of both teams. Bangladesh had previously toured Pakistan last year for a 2-match test series, which they won comprehensively 2-0. And now let's talk of badminton. 2-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu will spearhead India's challenge at the Swiss Open 2025 starting Tuesday. Sindhu will face fellow Indian Malvika Bansod in the opening round. Rakshita Ramraj and Anupama Upadhyay are the other Indian contenders in the women's singles category. In the men's singles draw, Lakshya Sen will lead the Indian contingent, which includes H.S. Pranoy, Kiran George and Priyanshu Rajawat. India has no representation in the men's doubles category. However, in women's doubles, world number 9 pair Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand are set to lead the charge. And Lionel Messi has been ruled out of Argentina's squad for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers due to a muscle strain. Messi scored a stunning goal in Inter Miami's 2-1 win against Atlanta United in Major League Soccer on Sunday, but felt a muscle discomfort. As a result, the 37-year-old was left out of the Argentina squad on Monday and will remain in the United States to recover. Argentina, who lead the CONMEBOL qualifying standings with 25 points after 12 games, travel to the second place Uruguay on Friday and then host Brazil on March 25th. So that's all for this edition of DD India at News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live, and you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.